Lovely viewers, Lee Min-ho was on a red carpet surrounded by the most glamorous people in Korean entertainment, and the cameras were everywhere and the crowd was electric, and every single person in that space was competing, in the specific unconscious way that red carpets always produce competition, for the attention of the room. And Lee Min-ho looked at one person. Only one. Consistently. Repeatedly. With a specific, undisguised, entirely unmanaged quality of a man whose attention has a home and keeps returning to it regardless of what else the room contains. And that person was Song Hye-kyo. Min-kyo fans who were watching have not recovered and are not planning to recover anytime soon. Was this deliberate? Was this the kind of thing that happens below the level of conscious choice when the person you love is in the same space? Was this the most publicly visible evidence of private devotion that this fandom has ever been given on a red carpet? Stay till the end, because the complete breakdown of exactly how Lee Min-ho's attention moved on that red carpet, what it returned to, what his face did each time it returned, and why fans are now saying his red carpet behavior towards Song Hye-kyo has permanently changed the public conversation about Min-kyo, is going to take you somewhere you will not easily come back from. Before we go any further, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications, because Min-kyo is in a public era that keeps producing evidence the fandom was not ready for, and you cannot afford to miss a single moment. Now let's talk about the red carpet where Lee Min-ho looked only at her. There is a specific grammar to red carpet behavior. A set of rules so thoroughly internalized by the people who walk red carpets regularly that the rules operate below the level of conscious decision, producing behavior that appears natural and spontaneous but is, for the most practiced navigators of these occasions, the product of years of learning what these spaces require and how to provide it. The rules govern where you look and for how long and with what quality of attention. They govern how you manage the competing demands of the camera, the crowd, the colleagues nearby, the professional obligations of the occasion, and the specific social dynamics of an event that is simultaneously a professional appearance and a social gathering and a visibility management exercise. Lee Min-ho knows these rules completely, has known them for most of his adult life, has walked enough red carpets across enough years of extraordinary celebrity to have internalized the grammar of these occasions so thoroughly that navigating them looks entirely effortless, even when the demands they place on him are significant. He is one of the most practiced red carpet presences in Korean entertainment. His instincts in these spaces are, by any measure, excellent, which is why what happened on this red carpet is so completely and overwhelmingly significant. Because his instincts, in this specific space at this specific event with Song Hye-kyo present, kept returning him to her, kept overriding the red carpet grammar, kept producing in him, despite the full activation of the professional management that red carpet occasions require, the specific, involuntary, entirely ungrammatical behavior of a man whose attention has one primary destination and returns to it regardless of what the professional occasion requires of it. He looked at her, and kept looking at her, and kept returning to her after the professional demands briefly pulled his attention elsewhere, and the cameras caught all of it. And the Min-kyo fandom has spent every moment since the footage emerged trying to process what they were given on that red carpet, and largely failing to process it because what they were given is too much, too clear, too complete, too thoroughly the truth of what Lee Min-ho is when Song Hye-kyo is in the room. To understand the full weight of what happened, you have to understand the specific demands that this particular red carpet placed on Lee Min-ho. It was not a simple occasion. It was a significant industry event, the kind that assembles the most visible figures in Korean entertainment and that generates the kind of media attention that demands a certain quality of professional presence from everyone on it. The cameras were not casual. The observation was not casual. The stakes, in terms of professional visibility and image management, were at the level that occasions of this kind always carry. Lee Min-ho navigated all of that. He was warm and professional and entirely competent in every dimension of the red carpet's demands. He gave the cameras what the cameras needed. He engaged with the event's requirements. He was, in every visible professional respect, exactly what the occasion asked him to be. And he kept looking at her. Not dramatically. Not in the obvious, look at me looking at her way that would have made the looking feel performed or calculated for effect. In the specific, quiet, constantly recurring way of someone who cannot not. of someone whose attention is drawn back by something it cannot resist and does not, at the level where these things are decided, fully try to resist. Of someone for whom the room's most significant feature, regardless of everything else the room contains, is one specific person. The Min-kyo community mapped the pattern of his attention across the full duration of the red carpet footage. This is the kind of analysis that the community's most dedicated members do with a specific, careful, deeply informed quality of attention that years of Min-kyo observation produces. They tracked where his eyes went, how frequently they returned to Song Hye-kyo, the quality of the attention each time it arrived, the duration, the specific expression that accompanied the returning, the difference between the quality of his attention when it was directed at everything else the red carpet contained and the quality of his attention when it returned to her. What they found is what the phrase "he looked only at her," which has now become the community's shorthand for the entire event, captures with remarkable precision. It was not that he literally never looked at anything else. He looked at many things. He is a professional navigating a complex social and professional environment, and his attention moved through that environment as such occasions require. But every movement of his attention had a quality of returning, of the professional occasion briefly commanding his gaze, and then releasing it back to its natural resting point, of the attention whenever the red carpet's demands allowed it, going home. Home was Song Hye-kyo. This pattern, the pattern of returning, is more significant than a single sustained look would have been. A single sustained look might be explained, however inadequately, as a momentary distraction, as the professional attention briefly captured by something other than the event's demands. The pattern of returning cannot be explained that way. The pattern of returning is evidence of something structural, of an attention that is organized, at a level below conscious professional management, around a specific person, that is not randomly distributed across the available visual field, but that has a preferred destination and moves toward it whenever the professional demands allow. This is the attention of someone who loves the person they keep looking at, who cannot be in the same space as that person without their attention being constitutionally organized around that person's location and presence and specific quality of being there. Let's talk about Song Hye-kyo's presence on that red carpet and what it contributed to the dynamic the footage captures. Because she is not simply the passive object of his attention. She is a full participant in the red carpet environment, and her own navigation of it tells its own story. Song Hye-kyo on a red carpet is, in her usual public mode, a masterpiece of composed, beautiful, entirely managed presence. She is one of the most photographed and most observed women in Korean entertainment, and she has developed, through decades of exactly that observation, a relationship with red carpet spaces that is entirely her own. She knows these spaces. She knows how to inhabit them. She knows the specific quality of presence that they require, and she provides it with a grace and a completeness that is genuinely extraordinary to observe for anyone who has paid careful attention to how she moves through these occasions. What the Min-kyo community observed about Song Hye-kyo on this specific red carpet is something that departs from her established baseline. Something subtle, as her departures from baseline always are. Something that the community's years of careful observation of her public expression make visible in a way that casual observation would not produce. Quality of awareness. A specific, particular, privately oriented awareness of Lee Min-ho's presence in the space that runs, as a constant thread, beneath the fully managed, professionally excellent public presence she is simultaneously producing. She knows he keeps looking at her. This is what the community identified. The specific, involuntary quality of someone who is aware of being looked at by a specific person in a specific way. Aware not in the uncomfortable, surveilled sense of being watched by someone whose attention is unwelcome, but in the private, warm, quietly significant sense of being held in the attention of someone whose attention matters. The awareness that produces, in the intervals between the professional demands of her own red carpet navigation, the specific, barely visible, entirely private quality of a person who is receiving something and allowing themselves to receive it without making the receiving visible to the room. She received his attention. Privately, quietly, in the specific way that Song Hye-kyo receives the things that genuinely matter to her, which is always interior, always contained, always at the level of the private self rather than the public one. But the receiving was there. The Min-kyo community found it in the footage, in the specific quality of her expression in the moments when she was not directly engaged with the professional demands of the occasion, in the specific quality of stillness, of a person who is, beneath the excellent professional performance she is simultaneously maintaining, quietly held, quietly seen, quietly in the presence of the gaze of someone whose gaze she is entirely comfortable receiving. This mutual dynamic, his returning attention and her quiet receiving of it, is the full Min-kyo red carpet story. Not just him looking at her, which is significant on its own, but the complete circuit, the looking and the receiving, the specific, private, entirely real quality of two people who are in the same space and whose awareness of each other operates, beneath all the professional management of a high-visibility public occasion, in the specific, uninterrupted, entirely personal way that genuine love always operates when it is in the presence of its object. Let's examine the specific moments within the red carpet footage that the Min-kyo community has identified as most significant. Because the broad pattern of returning attention is one kind of evidence and the specific moments within it are another kind, and the specificity is where the most complete information lies. The first moment that the community has returned to most consistently is one that occurs early in the coverage. Lee Min-ho is engaged with something the red carpet requires of him. A professional interaction, a camera engagement, something that has his attention in the full, competent, professionally managed way that these occasions produce in him. And then the requirement ends. The camera moves on, or the interaction concludes, or the brief professional demand is satisfied. And in the instant of that conclusion, before the next professional demand has arrived to replace it, his attention moves. Without deliberation, without any visible decision-making process, to her, in the specific, automatic, prior-to-intention way of a reflex rather than a choice. His eyes find her with the unhesitating precision of someone who always knows exactly where she is. The Min-kyo community noted the speed of this. The zero delay between the end of the professional demand and the arrival of his attention at its natural destination. No intermediate period of attention floating unattached before finding her. No scanning of the room. Just the immediate, precise, effortless movement of attention to where it belongs. This is not the behavior of someone consciously choosing to look at a person. It is the behavior of someone whose attention has a home address that it returns to automatically. A person who does not need to find Song Hye-kyo in the room because they always know where she is. The second moment the community has identified as significant is one of sustained looking. Not long in the absolute sense. Perhaps 5 or 6 seconds. But on a red carpet, where professional demands are constant and the management of where you look is a continuous, active exercise, 5 or 6 seconds of sustained attention directed at one specific person is an eternity. Is a choice, or rather the override of choice, or rather the evidence that at the level where the deepest decisions are made the looking was not a choice but a necessity. He looked at her for 5 or 6 seconds with a specific quality of attention that the community has struggled to describe precisely and has arrived at, through multiple independent threads of analysis, the same essential description. He was seeing her. Not seeing her as a public figure or an industry colleague or one of the many people present at the event. Seeing her as himself sees her. In the private, complete, fully informed way that only the person who knows someone entirely can see them. The seeing that has access to everything. To the private person beneath the public one. To the interior reality beneath the managed exterior. To the complete, unedited, entirely known version of Song Hye-kyo that only one person in the world has full access to. He was looking at her the way he looks at her when no one is supposed to be watching. The way he looks at her at home. And the red carpet for those 5 or 6 seconds got to see it. The third moment is the one that the community has generated the most emotional response to, the most discussion, the most return visits to the footage. It is a moment of what the community has called caught looking. A moment in which Song Hye-kyo's attention, moving through the professional space of her own red carpet navigation, crosses his. In which their gaze meets, briefly, for a second or less. In which the private circuit between them becomes, for that fraction of a second, fully closed and fully visible. What happens in that fraction of a second is what the Min-kyo fandom has been trying to articulate since the footage first circulated and has not yet found language adequate to. What happens is recognition. The specific, private, fully loaded recognition of two people who know each other completely and who, in the accidental crossing of public gazes on a professional red carpet, are briefly entirely themselves together. The recognition is not surprising for either of them. It is not the recognition of the unexpected. It is the recognition of the inevitable, of the thing that was always there and has just, for a fraction of a second, become visible. Both of them move through it in the specific way that Hye-kyo always moves through the moments when the private reality surfaces in the public space. Quickly, quietly, with a practiced management of people who know how to close over the surface when something real has briefly shown through. But it showed. The fraction of a second showed. And the community was watching. Now let's address what the red carpet behavior means in the context of Lee Min-ho's specific, established history of navigating public spaces that contain Song Hye-kyo. Because this red carpet does not exist in isolation. It exists in a long sequence of documented occasions, and the community's ability to read this particular occasion with such precision is a direct product of what the preceding occasions have taught them. The Hye-kyo community has established, through years of comparative analysis of how Lee Min-ho behaves in public spaces that contain Song Hye-kyo versus public spaces that do not contain her, a clear and consistent pattern. The pattern is simple. He is different when she is there. Not dramatically different. Not in a way that would be obvious to a casual observer who lacked the comparative baseline. But different in the specific, measurable ways that the community's careful observation can document. Different in the quality of his physical ease. Different in the specific quality of the settled depth that his presence carries. Different in the way his attention is organized and what it returns to between the professional demands of the occasion. The red carpet is the most vivid and the most publicly documented instance of this pattern that the Hye-kyo Evidence Archive has yet produced. It is the pattern expressed with a clarity and a completeness that the more managed, more carefully navigated occasions in the Hye-kyo record have not quite achieved. On those occasions, the management was sufficient to moderate the expression of the pattern. On this red carpet, the combination of the occasion's specific demands and Song Hye-kyo's specific quality of presence in the space produced something the management could not fully moderate. The pattern expressed itself fully, and the cameras were there to capture it. This is significant for what it reveals about the current state of Lee Min-ho's management of his own public behavior in spaces that contain Song Hye-kyo. Because the degree to which the pattern expressed itself on this red carpet suggests a loosening of that management, a relaxation of the specific, active effort to prevent the private reality from surfacing in the public space. A relaxation consistent with what the Hye-kyo community has been documenting across the most recent arc of the story. The general, gradual, on their own terms loosening of the complete management that characterized the relationship's earlier phases. He is not trying as hard to not look at her. This is the community's most direct articulation of what the red carpet reveals about the current state of Hye-kyo. Not that he is now deliberately looking at her for public effect, but that the active effort to prevent the natural behavior of his attention from being visible has relaxed. That the management is less mobilized against the truth than it once was. That the truth, which has always been present and has always been visible to the most attentive observers, is now slightly more visible to a slightly wider audience because the work of containing it is being done with slightly less intensity than before. This relaxation is confidence, as the midnight outing and the island retreat and all the other recent evidence of Hye-kyo's current phase have established. Confidence that what they have is solid enough to absorb a little more visibility without being threatened by it. Confidence that the world knowing Lee Min-ho keeps looking at Song Hye-kyo on red carpets is not a revelation that requires protection but a truth that simply is. That they simply are. And that the energy previously devoted to managing how visible that truth was can be partially redirected elsewhere because the truth, at this stage, is secure enough to be slightly more visible. The haters brought their usual arguments and found them, as usual, inadequate to what the footage actually shows. He was simply scanning the room, they suggested. But room scanning does not have a consistent preferred destination that the attention returns to across the full duration of a red carpet event. Room scanning is random by definition. The pattern of returning is not random. It is organized. Organized around her. He was being professionally courteous to a colleague in proximity, they suggested. But professional courtesy directed at a colleague in proximity does not produce the specific quality of the 5-second sustained look. Does not produce the automatic, zero-delay return of attention that the footage shows. Does not produce the caught-looking moment and what both their faces did in that fraction of a second. Professional courtesy between colleagues looks entirely different from what this footage contains, and the Hye-kyo community, which has spent years studying exactly what professional courtesy between Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo looks like in order to distinguish it from the other thing, knows this as clearly as anything it knows. This is what Hye-kyo looks like on a red carpet when the management is slightly loosened and the truth is slightly more visible than it usually is. It looks like a man who keeps looking at his wife, who cannot help it, who has apparently, at this stage of the relationship's arc, decided that cannot helping it is acceptable, that the cameras catching him looking at her is not a threat but simply a fact, that he looks at her because she is there and she is her and he is him, and when she is in the room, looking at her is what he does. The fandom has always known this. The red carpet showed it to everyone else. Tell me in the comments right now what it felt like to watch Lee Min-ho's attention keep returning to Song Hye-kyo on that red carpet. Did you count the returns? Did you catch the caught-looking moment, and what did it do to you? Tell me the specific second that made you lose it completely. Like this video if Lee Min-ho looking only at her on a red carpet just gave you the most public Hye-kyo confirmation of the year. Share it with every fan who deserves to see what it looks like when a man cannot help looking at the woman he loves even on the most managed stage in the industry. And subscribe to this channel because Hye-kyo is giving us evidence in the most public and the most beautiful places right now, and we are going to document every single moment of it with the love and the attention it deserves. He looked only at her. On a red carpet.